Tonight we're going to have some tough talk. Going to get to the bottom of things. And although I think kids are a blessing, I think we have to make some serious assessment of our action as women. Welcome to the live. I decided to come on and have this conversation because I think it's necessary. Topic is 10 children, no daddy. How we as a society continue to fail our children. What can we do to stop our children being neglected, being abused? You have to take a roundabout approach and look at all the problems in our society and address them one by one before we can deal with even the bigger picture of abuse and neglect of our children. Sometimes, as moms, we get opportunities to go overseas. For example, you're from Jamaica. And the reason why I'm doing this tonight is because of some conversation I had with some children that are really going through a lot of hardship. And we're not always going to blame the parents, but sometimes parents have to be accountable for the actions that they're making, and they're not thinking about the kids. They're not seeing how it's going to affect them and their children down the road. And I think most parents love their kids and they don't want their kids to suffer. But it doesn't matter if you want your kids to suffer. If they are suffering because of your actions, they're suffering. There's nothing you can do about that. Now, if you're on the live or when you join, maybe at a later date when you watch this video, talk about your experience growing up in Jamaica. What was it like for you? How did you get treated? Because maybe your mom just didn't have it. Your mom had a lot of children, and maybe your cousins had a little better situation than you. How did the grandparents treat you? Did they treat you different from your cousins or your other family members because you were poor? What was it like for you growing up? And are you from a big family? What was it like for you growing up in a big family with your parents being, poor? These are the kind of things that I'd like to talk about. But I met a few kids, and all of them grew up with aunts or grandparents. And when I remember going to this school and spending some time with these kids, and honestly, I would leave my house with $1,000 for the day. Now that's 1,000 Jamaican dollars. And I would leave my house with 1,000 Jamaican dollars. And when I would, at the end of the day, I would have to ask for a ride home until I get home because I would be spending money buying lunch, helping kids, all the stories that I heard. Now, of course, sometimes some of the kids would trick you and tell you stories that was not true, but the majority of the stories that I heard were heartbreaking. Some of these kids were going hungry for days. So we're looking in this video, we're examining parents' attitude, parents' behavior. Let me put on my glasses. I'm prepared tonight because I cannot see this writing. Good evening, Clive. Welcome to the live. Tonight I'm talking about, these children that are growing up in poverty. Many children to a household, and the kids that are already here, bless them. We're happy that they're here, and we're supposed to take good care of them. And though we think kids are a blessing, but is it a blessing to have children that we cannot take care of? And when you see a woman with 10 children, with 10 different fathers, at what point are you going to have a conversation with that mom to say, you've got to do better for yourself and you've got to do better for the children? Exactly. Well, now all this killing that is happening in Jamaica has its roots in, I think, the topic that I'm having now, because so many kids are growing up in abject poverty in Jamaica. So many kids are being neglected. A lot of these violence you see in Jamaica are from kids that have grown up with such terrible plight, such hardship in life that they grow up. And I'm not saying poverty automatically mean that you're going to commit crime, but sometimes these kids, are hardened, and the people around them treat them so badly. They are treated so badly by family members, by other people, community members, neglect, and a lot of these kids grow up very angry. So there are so many things going on with all the killing that is going on in the country. But we have to take responsibility. We have to take this thing apart and see if we can make a better Jamaica, a better tomorrow for our kids and for our families. So Clive, are you from a big family? What was it like? Or where are you from? And what was it like growing up where you're from? If you feel comfortable answering that. Should women continue to have children that they cannot afford? And these children that they can't afford, whose responsibility is it to raise them? So are you from a big family, Clive? And what was it like for you growing up in Jamaica? Whose whose responsibility should it be to assist these children growing up? They're here already. So we are saying the parents have these children and they can't afford it. Who should be responsible? Should the citizens help to raise these children? Should parents, be brought in for counseling? What do you do when you see a mom that has 10 children with different fathers and she's struggling with these kids? And again, what was it like for you growing up in Jamaica? What was it like for you growing up in poverty? How did people treat you? One boy was sharing his story with me, and he said, growing up with his aunt, his mom had to go away for a better life and left him with his aunt. And he said for days, sometimes he would go without food. He would sleep outside. She would beat him on a regular basis. She would tell him that he's nothing, and his other cousins, which are her grandkids as well, would get the better treatment. Parents go away and they send money back home for their children. And when they send money home to the Hi Apple, send money back home for their kids, the people who they leave these kids with take the money and spend it on their own kids or on themselves. Apple, I'm asking, how do you view women who have a lot of children that they can't afford? Good evening, Gloria. Should we just blame the government for not, creating social structure to help these kids? Or should we be talking to these moms about all these children that they're having that they cannot afford? And do you think that women who have all these children that they cannot afford are partially to be blamed for some of the violence that's happening in Jamaica now? So Clive is saying he has a big family, but I get good schooling. My family wasn't that poor. Okay. And Apple says they should be having protected sex, government and parents. So let's just say you have one child, and it doesn't matter where you live, Jamaica or anywhere else in the world. You have one child, and you run into hardship, and you apply for social assistance if it's where you're at, and you go back and you get pregnant again, and you don't have a father for your child. Yep, for sure, Apple. So you got two kids. You started out on welfare or any social assistance that's available to you, and you end up having 10 children while you're on the system. First of all, should the government continue to assist these individuals? And if they don't assist these individuals, the kids are going to suffer. But should moms, I don't know, Should parents be blamed? Should moms be blamed? And I mean, the fathers are gone. We'll talk about the fathers another time. But should moms do better by their children? It's my opinion that if you've had one kid or two kids and you went on social assistance and you tried a relationship and you have another child and then person is gone again and you find yourself with five kids, no fathers, who's to be responsible? Who should we blame? Both in the States, because I know a particular woman right now. She's has 9 children and she's about to have her 10th, and eight different fathers for the 10 children she's about to have. And she says she's not on social assistance, but it's not true. And one father took her to court to have his child, and it was a huge thing. Eventually, he won in the court, and I'm very glad that he did, because the son that he has was just going to suffer like the other kids that she has. So I feel bad for these kids that are suffering in Jamaica. Exactly, 8 different fathers. At what point? And would you say that's selfish? Because we love to say kids are a blessing. We're very glad they're here. But having 10 children and living in a one-room house, how is that a blessing? Now, if I see someone struggling with these kids and the kids are really having a hard time and there's anything I can do to help, I'm going to help. But I'm still saying to that mom, at what point? See, everybody wants love. Everybody wants, some kind of commitment from male or female. But you tried on more than one occasion. On more than one occasion, you tried to see if you could find a father figure and it didn't work out. And you find yourself every time you get into a relationship, you end up alone with another child. At what point is that female going to wake up? How is that the responsibility of the government when you're the one who choose to go lay down with men who have no commitment to you, and who, some men, keep in mind, here in Canada as well, there are some men who only date women who have children, who are on social assistance. I've heard men say that. I only date women who get what is called a baby bonus every month on the 20th, because when they go with these women, they get to, borrow money from these ladies. So there are men that are predator by nature, and they attach themselves to women who have children because they know that, for one, in Canada, they'll get a social housing. Some of these men are bum. So they get involved with the woman and get her pregnant, and then live free, takes no responsibility for his child, and eventually leaves to go be with another woman who will take them in. A lot of countries help people. Of course, a lot of people, a lot of people who are overseas are helping some of these kids growing up in Jamaica without fathers. And I'm not saying they shouldn't get the help that the kids obviously need. But you keep on seeing pictures of kids in Jamaica, suffering. And in my profession, I've met a lot of children. When you hear the stories, I mean, if we don't hold women accountable, now I'm not saying not to hold these men accountable, some of them disappear. If you're going to get involved with a man and he's going to impregnate you and you can't even tell the government where this man is, what can the government do? What can anybody else do? Women have to take more responsibility for their actions. It's not like back in the day when you didn't know about birth control. You know about birth control now. So to have 5, 6, I don't see how that's love. I don't see how it's love when you watch your child hungry and you watch your child naked, and you, after you have 8 kids and you can barely feed these children, you go and you have more. To me, that's very cruel. So we can help people, but I think people have to be honest with these individuals. And I think in some countries they've been cutting back on social assistance because they realize that some people are career, recipients. They stay on welfare, and as soon as one child is old enough to go to school, they have another child. I'm just tired of it. And the reason why I'm speaking this way, that I'm not tired of these kids that are here already, but I'm tired of women not taking responsibility for their actions. Because guess what? In Jamaica, for example, when we keep doing this, just lay down with anybody and just have a child with somebody, the kids suffer. And what happens? Some of these kids grow up, and you have people in society who, and in the States too, who will look at your poverty and look at your family situation and know that you're desperate. And that's why a lot of these girls are being seduced at a very young age, and being abused by many people, because guess what, they don't have anyone to take care of them, and so they become so desperate, and these taxi operators in Jamaica take advantage of that. Just a moment, this phone is annoying me. I have no idea where this phone is, so it's gonna ring again. Yeah, they are taking advantage of these little girls because they're desperate. Okay. And also in the States, please forgive me, I can't find my phone and it's driving me nuts. One moment. Yeah. Okay, there it is. It's on the right under here, excuse me. Yeah, so the kids are being taken advantage of by people who are like predators. Just a moment. I'm going to have to call you back. I'm on live. Hello? I'm on live, so I'm going to have to call you back, okay? Sorry about that. I was waiting for that call and then I came on and here it is. Exactly. Yeah, so sometimes I was in Jamaica too, some of those videos that I used to make. And I lost my chain of thought. But yes, so these kids, when I talk to these kids, when you hear the stories, I know kids that are 13, 14 years old are telling me, well, because we're poor, I have to go out and date older men so I can assist my mom. Okay, how is that a child's responsibility? I've heard women say, my 16-year-old daughter, is so good to me that I can put on my pot and know that at the end of the day, she's going to come back with money to help me, you know, prepare a meal for the rest of the kids. How is that a child's responsibility? I've heard kids say to me, um, I love my mom, but I don't like the way she is because I have a boyfriend. And now this girl is 16 years old and she's been dating this guy for 2 years. That would have made her 14. And she's saying, my boyfriend is 35 years old. You do the math. The boyfriend is 35 years old. She's dating him for 2 years. That means she was 40 from this 14. She was dating him when he was 32. And this child told me that my mom always, as soon as I go to my boyfriend's house, I sleep over before I come to school. My mom is borrowing money from me. Bless up mind over matter. Welcome. A mistake is one or two. And I wouldn't want to call the kids a mistake, but okay, things happen. Even one or two or three. Things happen. You have two kids with somebody, it didn't work out. You met someone else, you have another child, and that didn't work out. So here you have three kids. How do you move? How do you move from three kids to 10 children living in one room? Your situation did not change. Like, I think that's very heartless, if you ask me. Birth control. I mean, birth control. Birth control is there. There's no excuse for people to be doing that. And with the AIDS crisis in Jamaica, and it is a crisis that they're not really telling people about, um, women shouldn't be just laying down in bed with men unprotected to begin with. And so what we see are these kids who are suffering, who go to school hungry, who can go to school on a regular basis because their parents can't afford to send them. And I had a situation with a child that told me that her mom was putting her out to older men. I complained to the guidance council at the school and asked them to call for a meeting. When the parents came, the kid, first of all, the kids in the class was behaving so badly. And I was trying to ask, why are these kids behaving so badly? Like, for example, one kid came to the door. The door was locked. I was inside. And the kid was, having a big fight with someone in the hallway, cursing and saying the worst things that you can imagine. See, Jamaica is not the same place anymore. And our kids are not the same as they used to be. And we can't just blame their behavior. We have to look at the adults around them. That's what I'm saying. So the kids were cursing each other outside. So I opened the door thinking, okay, well, I left Jamaica 18 years at the time. And I'm saying, okay, the kids just don't know that I'm inside this room. So when they see me, they're going to stop. They're going to be so surprised. They're going to run off. So I opened the door and the kid looked at me and she says, oh, I'm sorry. And I thought, okay, good. She didn't know that I was here. She stepped down 2 doors and then she started telling the girl about her grandmother and her great grandfather insides. I was shocked. And I'm like, when did kids become so presumptuous, so disrespectful? But the thing is, it's the way they're growing up. Because some of them are coming to school, but they're living adult life. Okay? Parents are not responsible for them. They're responsible for themselves. So they're not going to respect you as an adult because they don't respect their parents at home. So you have mom saying, okay, don't date schoolboy because the schoolboy got nothing to give you. Date the big man. Big man have money. And big man have money. And therefore the little girl is subjected to having, underage sex. Okay? Mama is only 32 years old and she just gave birth. And her child who is 16, 14, 15 years old is having a baby too. So the cycle continues. And I feel bad when I see people collecting money for women with all these children, but it's kind of annoying me now too, because I'm saying, okay, I feel bad for the kids, but I don't feel sorry for you as a mom. I don't feel sorry for you. I want to tell you, shut your legs and stop doing this to the kids. Plus of all, they died before. 2 boys and 1 girl. The girl was 17. Can you believe no family member took them in or out them? I know of those stories, mind over matter. I know of children in Jamaica that are raising themselves. And even when sometimes people take in these kids that are abandoned, they treat them like slaves, they treat them like servants. Sometimes you hear the story about people judging children in Jamaica, and it just gets to me because a lot of us are hypocrites. A lot of us in Jamaica are hypocrites because even when people take in other people's children that are abandoned, they treat them so badly. They bring them in the household like they're servants. They treat them terribly. And these kids grow up and some of them get an opportunity to leave and to go away. Blessings to these individuals. I'm so happy for them. And when these same kids come back who used to be treated like dirt, you see people, saying how they love them and they were good to them and this and that. Our parents are part of the problem with violence in Jamaica, what's happening to our kids. And part of the problem, I'm saying it without no apology, is that the women need to stop having these kids that they don't want, these kids that they can't afford. Kids are not supposed to be pension. If our kids grow up and they're there to assist us after the fact, that's great, but we should stop having children because I think a lot of poor people are having all these kids that they can't afford. And it's so ironic because people who can afford kids and not to have all these kids. My grandfather said that 17-year-old girl was not a child as she was taking man. He considered her a big woman so the man could look after her. There you go. There you go. But if they're not taking care of her, they left her with no choice. It's like throwing the girl. Listen, man, I want to cry. You're throwing the girl out, throwing out there to the mercy of the world. She have no choice but to take the man because she needs to eat. She needs to go to school. And some of these girls are very ambitious. Some of the girls are ambitious. So they figure, well, if I have no one to take care of me and this man is going to do it for me, I'm going to go to bed with him. So the girl I was telling you about earlier, told me that her mom would, as soon as she goes to the boyfriend, she would want some money to borrow. These careless women, when we had the meeting and the women came to school and they were all there so wonderful and complaining about the kids and saying that the kids were bad, I had to say something. I said, a lot of you are hypocrites. Because guess what? Some of you moms are putting your girls out to go sleep with men to help you take care of your other children that you can't afford. You put pressure on the older girl who is only 14 or 15 years old to go out there and find man to support her so she can help you and her. And because she loves you and she loves her sibling, she's doing this. Okay. So I'm looking for a family right now to give some kind of assistance. And I'm doing my little research to make sure that the mom does deserve it. But I'm not going to reward some woman who continues to have children that she can't afford. And am I saying that the kids that she have carelessly, should they not get support? Of course they should. But I don't know. I think like a lady named Barbara Gluden said this some years ago on her show when she used to have a program where people would call in and said that they had needs and people would assist them. And I remember this one woman, had like 6 kids and she didn't have a bed and people were calling in to assist her. But one of the things that Barbara asked her is, if you don't have a bed and you have 6 kids, what's going to happen when you have a bed? Do you understand? You don't live anywhere. How can you, as a mom, see rain coming through your roof? Your kids that you already have are almost drowning in this situation. And you go out, you lay down, and you get pregnant again, or stand up, or whatever it is you do, and you have more kids. That is cruelty. Yeah, yeah. They make the daughters feel guilty, like the children owe them to be born. Yes, they do. And I think we have to stop. And now, when the older folks used to do that, but now they're young people. These young people are exposed to social media. They're exposed to so much more now. They know better. And again, birth control. When I was living in Jamaica, they had this campaign, two is better than too many. And so a lot of people were, getting the message. But now it seemed like it's a free for all again. And the girls that are having all these children are very young. You'll see someone, this female I was telling you about, she lives in the States and she's less than 30 and she's about to have her 10th child. Her 10th child. So when you look at the Black community and you see how, we are handling our responsibility as parents, and we look at see what's happening to our kids. Can you just blame the authority or individuals who are abusing our children? When we don't love them. You don't love your child if you keep having kids that you can't afford. Yes, that's the thing. That's what I'm also saying. That's why I said earlier that, did you have a hard life in Jamaica? Were you abandoned? Did you suffer, hardship? And the adults around you didn't pay you any mind, didn't take care of you. And now that you're older, all of a sudden you have this responsibility to take care of them. Under 30 with 10 kids, and I'm mid 30 with no kids. Exactly. She's under 30 with 10 children. And, she makes all these excuses, but 1 man, 2 man, 3 man, 4 man, this is not the men's problem anymore. This is your problem. And again, of course, these fathers should be found and they should be made forced to pay child support. But let me tell you this, a lot of these women who are having these kids, the government says you must find these fathers and let us force them to pay their child support. Some of these women lie. So let's talk about the women who have kids for different men. Sometimes they might be living with one man who is not even a father of any of the kids. They lie to say they don't know where the fathers are. They don't try to go in pursuit of these men taking care of their children. It's sometimes as women, we fail the kids. We are the ones who are failing our own children, and we can't blame other people. The government says find these individuals and let us force them to pay child support. They lie and say they don't know where these men are. And in Canada, to a certain extent, I understand it because you know what? Some of these people with 10 children, they live better than people who work. They have housing, and you know the kids have their little funds coming in every month. And I'm glad to a certain extent. Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Janet, we're just talking about children that grow up in poverty, whether it be Jamaica or wherever in the world. Kids whose moms or whose parents are not taking responsibility and continue to bring more and more kids in the world that they cannot afford. And though it sounds terrible that you're going to criticize a child that is unwed, you're not criticizing the child that's already here. For example, the woman who had 9 children, those kids were already here. And you say, okay, they're here now. Okay, now get your act together. She's pregnant and she's about to have another child. She's about to have a 10th child, and her man just moved away from her. And I'm saying, how is it the kids' fault? And when these kids grow up and feel resentment towards these mothers or resentment towards their father, sometimes when we come and we say, don't talk about your mom like that, don't treat your father like that, it's easy for us to say. And I do see that women are being attacked out here. And sometimes I don't agree with it, but I have to say to myself, at the end of the day, with what's going on with violence in Jamaica, with what's going on with, you know, our kids misbehaving, when are we going to look at the family situation and address the bigger picture, which is moms who are not playing their role right or not being responsible? Okay, so though I would say if you can assist a family that obviously is struggling and suffering, you can go ahead and do that. But at the same time, you have to have a conversation with these parents, with these moms. If you get funds coming from the government, why not use it to help to uplift yourself? Don't leech off the assistance, take it to study to do something. Absolutely. If you're somewhere where you're getting the assistance, yes, absolutely. If you don't want to go to school, to academic stuff, you can learn a skill. In Jamaica, for example, if you are getting some kind of assistance from people, and what I'm afraid of, the mentality of some Jamaicans is that when they find out or they see that people are getting money for assistance with their children, these people will make it and have a habit to continue to have children that they can't afford. And the money that they get, they're not going to say, okay, let me go out here and start a little business that I can help myself, and I can help my children. They have this mentality where give, 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 give to me, and they start expecting it and they start cursing you. And I'm going to give an example. A friend went to Jamaica not too long ago. I don't know if it's a mental health problem. I really don't know. But the lady go to Jamaica to visit, and this lady asked her for money. And she said, I'm sorry, I don't have any money. She said she had just taken her kids for a treat that day, and she had no money on her. And the lady starts saying to her, this is why we're killing you all when you come here. We stab and kill you when you come to Jamaica, because you know you go to foreign and you have it, and you're supposed to come here and take care of us. So there's a sense of entitlement. You know, these women make bad choices in their life. The kids are suffering because of their choices, and at the same time, they're giving you attitude. If you say, well, why you have so many kids and you can't afford it, they'll give you attitude. They told my friend, you know, this is why we're killing you, because when you come to foreign, when you go away, you're supposed to come back and help us. Yeah. Me personally, any parent that I'm going to help, I'm putting this right out there because I'm feeling bad about the kids based on the kids that I have talked to and people that email me and people who talk to me and say, oh, Miss Jenny, I need help, please. And they explain their situation. I will assist these kids, but guess how I will do it? No, not even a penny. from my hand will go in the hand of a mother. No mom will get my money. In fact, nobody from Jamaica will ever get money from my hand anymore. Here's what I do. If you're sick, I contact the doctor and I'll pay the doctor's note. If your child needs to go get a uniform, I purchase it through the school, or the school fee, I pay it directly to the school. You're not getting a dime from me. I have spent 30 years in this country and I have gone out above and beyond and sacrifice and leave myself without to assist people. A lot of them are very ungrateful. So I'm not trying to help the adults. When the kids are already here, I don't think we can turn our back against them, because when you do, you never know when those kids grow up and because of the neglect and the hurt and the suffering they went through, they become monsters and then I get subject to it. So if there's anything I can do to assist these kids, but I'm not going to assist the kids by giving it to their mom. I'm sorry. I'm giving it to the school because it's for the child. And I think some of these social network, that is here sometimes enable some of these women, you know, in places like this where education is free under a certain age, kids go to school. And of course, food, they'll get money for food for their children and so on. Things have changed a lot here too, and I'm glad. But that doesn't really stop these women from having children that they can't afford. Yes, you can. Like there's one school that I donate to, Mind Over Matter, that I buy lunches. I will just call and say, okay, for this week, I want to sponsor 2 kids, and I pay. I send the money through e-transfer, and the kids get their lunches. So I'm not saying neglect the kids or abandon the kids who are here and are suffering, because if you don't assist these kids, let me tell you, it's going to have a domino effect and it's going to affect you. A lot of the kids that are there in Jamaica are so hurt and so broken and so abused. And abuse doesn't mean that they're just beating them. Kids are forced to fend for themselves. So, like I said, when the kid came to the door, I was swearing up and down and saying bad things to the other person. And I thought, well, she didn't know an adult was in the room. But the reason why she was behaving so badly is because she's a child trapped, you know, she's a child, but her lifestyle is that of a woman. You can't tell her don't speak like that in front of me, I'm an adult, because she's living like an adult herself. She have to go sleep with her man to get money to go to school, and she have to take care of her mother who's only 45 years old. Why aren't you going out there to go do what you're asking the girl to do? You're old enough to do that. Why is it the child's responsibility to go out there and use her body to make money to take care of you and your kids? I absolutely hate it. It's not the child's responsibility. So though we love our parents, we have to let our kids grow up and get a life of their own. And if your kid is kind enough to come back and assist you, that's all good and dandy, but it shouldn't be their responsibility. It shouldn't be. So now the whole thing with kids missing, some of these kids are being lured to sex trade. Sex trafficking is a thing in Jamaica. And a lot of these kids are being lured in this area because of poverty. Because of poverty, and some of their parents are acting innocent, like they don't know what's happening, and they're deliberately behind these kids going down this pathway. And I'm blaming it on all the kids that are being born in a society where people justify grown men having sex with children. I mean, listen to some of the songs. It's promoted. It's promoted, and the whole gallus, what gallus mentality that you have with men who just go around and drop their seed and abandon these children and leave them on the mercy of the earth. So my thing is, what do you do? Are you going to just leave the kids and say, okay, well, their parents are so careless, I'm not going to help them? But at the same time, do you want to enable these women? Oh yeah, the whole idea on Mind Over Matter is that you owe me. And this is what's happening to some of these women. They're thinking people owe them. I lay down and get these children and I can't afford them. It's your job to come, and it's like they're demanding this from you. And some people are not buying that. Some people are going to ignore you with all your children that you can't afford. And I heard Bo talk about this woman who used to lay with him when he was going to train, when he was, an athlete and he was training. The woman would lay with him. And when he spoke to her, he said she had all these kids and no fathers. He asked her, so where are the fathers? Why aren't these men helping you? And she says, I don't know where they are. Too many unwanted kids. Too many women are having children that they can't afford and causing the kids to suffer and subjecting the kids to all kinds of abuse. And in some cases, for example, a woman who has her kids and she's going away to try to make a better life for them, even when they're attempting to do better by their kids, sometimes the kids really are subject to a lot of suffering because the people they leave them with, when they send money back home, these people sometimes spend it for themselves, spend it on themselves and their children, and the kids still suffer. So when you have to even leave your children to go away for a better life, that in itself is so problematic too. Your intention is good, but the people you're leaving your kids with are not good people. Oh, yes. I lived in Jamaica as a child for 3 years, and I remember those dirty men looking girls outside the school. Nobody said anything. My grandparents were overprotective as I was, but other kids weren't. Listen, my daughter is 24 years old now, and I tell the story many times. This man, we went shopping, and this man came to me. She was 11 years old at the time. And the man came to me and asked me if she was my daughter. And I said, yes. And he said, she's so beautiful. Can I have her? So I thought he meant, oh, can I have her as my daughter? And I'm like, well, no, you can't have her. He said, I will marry her and take good care of her. And she's 24 years old and she still looks like a kid. So imagine what she looked like when she was 11. And I said to him, you're asking me to give you my daughter? He says, yes, I'll take care of her and I'll marry her. And I won't let her go to any parties. And I said to him, I'm asking you, I'm going to count to three. And when I open my eyes, I don't want to see you. Okay. So she was 11 years old. When she was 11 years old, also, a boy that was about 16 years old saw her and told her how he loved her. And she was so traumatized by the whole situation. A family member of mine, when she was also the same age, because we were there visiting at that time, gave her phone number to one of his older friends in high school. So the society itself is built on this principle where as soon as the girls start to show, changes in her body, all kinds of predators come out. So the mom who continuously have all these kids doesn't have time to even pay attention to these things that are happening to her girl. And boys too, because again, the children that we're having that we can't afford, we throw them out there to the mercy of the world, because boys are also saying that I got molested because my mom didn't have whatever. She invited men in the household who, when she wasn't home, sexually molested me. Boys in the household saying, I was there going to this man's house. He invited me to come to his house to help him with work around his house so I could get some money to assist my mother. And when I was helping him one day, he raped me. I mean, there's so many things happening because we're not taking responsibility. Welcome back, Apple. Yes, they're not actually trying to, they pimp out some of their daughters. She says being a man isn't being a predator. Guys chasing women isn't predatory. Guys chasing women is not predatory, but a man chasing a child is. Dave, maybe you might want to say something else so I see where you're going with this conversation. Because if you are a 40-year-old man and you have eyes for 11-year-old, that doesn't have anything to do with. Please explain yourself. Because I know sometimes when you read something, it can be misunderstood. And I hate when folks don't ask me. I say that all the time. I don't have a problem. I'm not into the feminist movement where if a man says hello to a lady, he has to worry that she's going to charge him for rape. We're talking about children here. We're talking about kids here. But no, let Dave stay here because maybe David needs to hear this conversation to understand that when you're a grown adult, if you are 40 or 50 years old and you like younger women, there's nothing wrong with that. A 40-year-old or a 50-year-old man can date a 20-year-old girl. That means if you're 50, you're still 30 years older than her. And so if you want to date a girl 20 years old, I don't have a problem with that. But if you're an adult and you have eyes for a child, I would suggest you go and get help. Okay? Because what I'm saying is poverty is one of the reasons why some of these girls are missing in Jamaica. One of the moms having all these children that they can't afford is one of the reasons why our girls are going missing, why you're having all these teenage girls. Because a lot of these girls that are having this teenage pregnancy nowadays are not getting pregnant. Back in the day when I was growing up, girls were getting pregnant, teenagers were getting pregnant for little teenage boyfriends. But that's not the case now. It's mostly adult men that are impregnating these girls. Yeah, the man wanted my 11-year-old daughter. And we go back to Jamaica another time. At the time, she was 18, and this older man was also lurking around. And, I saw the look on her face. She was feeling uncomfortable. And when I looked, he asked me if it was my daughter. And I said, yes, she's my daughter. And he came to me. So it's very common in Jamaica. Very, very common. And I think here's my segue. I think one of the reasons why you don't have more people coming out and lashing out against women that are the girls that are being abused, the girls that are being raped, the girls that are finding themselves pregnant, having babies, instead of lashing out on the men who are doing this to our girls, we're lashing out on the girls themselves. If some of these girls ever tell you their story about what's happening to them in their household, here's another story for you, because I have them all. I have tons of messages that I get, and I can show folks. I won't do that, but I'm saying tons of messages that I get on a daily basis. One girl, for example, her dad is actually molesting her. And if she doesn't sleep with him, he doesn't give her money to go to school. Okay? His own daughter. Now, when she didn't tell me, but I suspected, and I asked her if she was having problems at home, what was going on with her. And when she explained to me, she's 17 years old. And she says, my father is molesting me. And I said, does your mother know? Did you tell your mother? She says, my mother knows. But I said, what do you mean your mother knows? I said, okay, let me talk to your mother. I sent a message to her mom, tell her to meet me. And when the mom came, I said to her, your husband, the father of your child, is molesting your daughter. And you need to do something about it. But I said, I suspect. Your daughter didn't really confirm, but I suspect, because I really didn't want to get the girl in trouble. And the mom says, I can't do anything because I don't have a job. I don't have a work. I don't have nowhere to go. So I said, you're going to stay and allow your child to be molested because you have nowhere to go? She says, I have nowhere to go. What can I do? I've never worked. I'm 50 years old now and I've never worked, and he's the one who works to take care of the family. And so she was okay with that. And eventually I tried to find a place for her daughter to go, and someone agreed to take her in. But then at the last minute, I think she got scared because the girl said her father might behave bad when he finds out that she's leaving. So the lady said, I don't want to pick this up. There's a lot of things going on with our girls and our boys in Jamaica, a lot of suffering. And I'm blaming it on women having all these kids that they can't afford and subject themselves to all kinds of abuse on their kids as a result. The stories, mind over matter, are severe. Another example, and this one does make me want to cry. The child was 11 years old, and she gave me a note, and she said she was going to kill herself and run out. She gave it to me, ran out. When I go to Jamaica, I always try to spend a lot of time with kids. That's just me. I like to spend time with kids, and they come and they confide in me and whatever. She gave me a note, said she wanted to kill herself. And I said, you have to, I called her and I said, you need to come and talk to me about this. And she says, no, she don't want to talk about it. I said, if you don't talk about it, I'm going to call the police because I can't hear this and leave it be. And she came to me at 11 years old. She said her mother gave her to her godfather because the mom cannot afford to take care of her. And she said every night the godfather's son, who was 21 years old, was coming in her room and touching her. I contacted her school. Listen, don't let them trick you into Jamaica and act like they care. They don't care. And this is why I'm asking women. It's only women who can stop this from happening to our girls. Take responsibility for your own action. Take responsibility for what you're seeing happening in society. You are the ones who have to stop this. I contacted the school, told the guidance department that the girl was being molested. And I said, you must bring that mom into the school immediately. When I got the mom's number and contacted her, because the school wasn't moving fast enough as far as I'm concerned, when I contacted the mom, she said she was busy and she couldn't come. And I didn't want to tell her on the phone. So I said to her, it's life and death regarding your daughter. And she never came. She never came. She never kept the meeting. And then I went back to Jamaica a year later and was told by one of her classmates when she was 12 that she was pregnant and she dropped out of school. Okay, so you and I can do the math and know that the godfather that she was living with, it's his son that continued to molest the 11-year-old child until by 12 years old she was pregnant, and her mom did nothing. Her mom gave her away that she was a bird baby because she couldn't afford it. So all these things you see happening to the kids in Jamaica are as a result of some of these neglect. And though we know that hardship and suffering can take anybody, and that we have the best intention when we're having our children, but I'm saying after you have 1 or 2 or 3 kids, and you continue to have kids and no man is around, at this point, you must be held accountable for your actions. It's I don't want to say total failure for a Black Africa, but I want to say that we are doing some things and we're not taking any responsibility for our actions. And we continue to make excuses. Excuses why this is happening to me, and excuses why this, that, or the other, when you are failing yourself and you're failing your children. And I'm saying that a lot of what is happening here with the missing of our girl, this is why more women are not coming forward. You don't see this bond. You don't see this anger, this rage in the women, because a lot of them are guilty of neglecting their children this way. A lot of the women in Jamaica are guilty of having children and subjecting them to these things. And so the society has become one where we're so used to, men preying on little girls, and we're so used to covering it up as parents. And we're so used to, putting our kids out there and selling them to the highest bidder. Before we can even deal with business, support Black business, we need to support family, build a strong family unit. If you start to build strong family units, you'll understand the family at home and the family in the community. You can't look at the other person out there that is not even related to you and care about sticking with these individuals and supporting these folks when you're not even supporting your own family, your own children. We're failing the youths. And when they come out here and behave badly, you see these same hypocrite parents, women especially, coming out and criticizing the youths. They're learning from you. They're the ones who saw your door as a revolving door with different men coming in, and you having children that you can't afford. And when you get overwhelmed, and I can imagine when you see your child hungry and you can't feed your child, a certain level of rage is going to come in you, but you're not angry with the right person. You're angry with the kids. You get what I'm saying? Is there anyone here who have any story of growing up in Jamaica, going through hardship, and at any point feeling a little bit of resentment towards your mom consistently having relationship with men that just don't stick around and more mouths to feed? And how did growing up in a household where there was no father, how did that affect you as a girl or a boy? Mind over matter. A lot of people go to Jamaica with their kids, bringing them for culture and whatever. And some of the stories these kids, sometimes the kids don't tell you, because some of the things that my daughter tell me too, after we visited Jamaica and come back, long after she would say, "Oh, this happened to me," or someone said this. And I'm the type of person who is always like micromanaging my kids and stuff that she would say. She got to the point where she says, one day she said to me, "Mom, it's not just the adults that are tricky and conniving. It's also the kids. The kids learn how to be tricksters," because she says when she's around them, and she's eating, they would eat off her food and then eat theirs, because the kids are always in survival mode. They learn how to be in survival mode because they know that the hardship that they face. We can't just blame other communities and what's happening, Dave. What I hear what you're saying, but I'm right now tonight I'm saying our dollars are feeding and empowering other communities. We're not taking care of our own. We have to. We can't live in the past where you're like, "Oh, these kids are my pension." Kids are not your pension. Kids are not your pension. No, you bring them into the world, and you're supposed to inspire them through your action, and it should not be negative. You should be able to say, "You know what, you're the next generation." And if you're a mom or a dad, you should want better for your kids than you have had in your life. I want to see my kids prosper. I want to see them do better by me. I had no control over my situation. I've been born to a mother who gave away all her kids and having to grow up. And I was blessed to be able to grow up in an environment where I didn't really get a lot of abuse. I wouldn't say I was abused as a child, but I had neglect in some way, because I don't care who you are. Most kids that don't grow up with their parents sometimes don't get the love and the attention they would have if they were with their moms who love them and is dedicated to them. I know about the heartlessness when I was 9 years old. I was trying to do an ultra race, and 8 p.m. cars road were blocked. Everyone went in on the bus. Yes, mind over matter. I know you're telling the truth. I know that's the heaven truth. They're so cold towards the kids in Jamaica. They're cruel. Cruel. That's why they will have some baby that was 2 years old walking down the road, but outside naked. They're cruel. Let me give you an example. I was going home one evening, took a taxi. It was dark. It was nighttime. It was raining. And where we're from, there's not a lot of there's no public transportation. So we're relying on these taxis. And a lot of these taxis are not licensed operators, but who cares? They are doing their thing, making their money. And the taxi came, every vehicle came, got packed up, and I was waiting for a long time just to get a vehicle to go home. Finally, I got in a cab. A little boy, I think he was about 5 years old, was going to a school a great distance away from where he lived. And the woman comes in the taxi. She pulls him up out of his seat, put him out of the taxi, and said that she's going home. He can wait. He's young. I got so angry. I came out of the taxi and stayed with this boy. I asked him where his parents were. He said his mom's at home and he goes to school far away from where he lives. And I waited with him And when the next taxi came, I went in the vehicle with him until he got home. Very cruel. This is what I was saying earlier on too, that a lot of kids really experience a lot of abuse, not just from home, but people in the society too. People treat them badly. She was going to take the baby, and she's a mother. It's not her child, but she's a mother nonetheless. And she was kicking the kid out of the taxi so she could go home at night in the rain. I've also seen other kids who come and say, I'm going home and I don't have any taxi fare. And I see other women say, you're better than me. You eat off your lunch and now you can't go home. Go away. And I'm like, but how do you just abandon a kid who is who eat their account to them, eat their lunch money, and now can't get home? You're gonna leave that child there. So I don't care what they want to say and make pretend in the pretend world. Like, women are always looking out for children, or as a people, we are doing right by our children. We're not. And I think in the situation with Jamaica, it's manifesting itself. What's happening in the shadows is coming to light. The abandonment of our children, the abuse of our kids is now showing you this disaster that is unfolding. We're not taking care of our kids, and we're not looking out for other people's children. Now, I'm not saying you should go on an encouragement to have all these kids they can't afford. But at the same time, I'm saying it takes a village. And sometimes a village have to take a march over to the woman's house and tell her, woman, shut your legs and stop having all these kids you can't afford. They're not your pension. When you bring kids into the world, and if you're a mom and you're listening to this and you have children that you can't afford, you have 2, 3, 4, 5 kids, and your relationships have never worked out, take a break from the kids and the men. Take a break from the men, I mean, and focus on raising your children. Maybe you're just not lucky with men, or maybe your choice in men is just not very good. So take a break from the man and just raise the children you already have, and don't add any more to it, because you can't love kids when you can't take care of them. It's not love. It's selfish. Yeah, I know. I saw that many, many times, mind over matter. Kids getting dragged out of taxis, and big, tough black women go in there and spread off. Men do it too, but I saw a lot of women do this. Let me tell you something. Let's not pretend here, huh? Let's not pretend that our society is a one where, our people have a heart. I mean, a lot of bad things happen to us, but that doesn't justify us neglecting or abusing our children. But even if you're a sexual addict, that doesn't mean that every time you have sex, you must get pregnant. There's protection, there's birth control. They have needles, they give it to you for 6 months. They have IUD, they have pills if you don't want to take pills. There are too many methods to use to prevent yourself from having these kids. There's no excuse. Yeah, so I paid for the little boy. Um, and he had already paid his fare when the woman dragged him out. She dragged him out of the taxi, and the taxi operator didn't tell her she couldn't do that. And the other adults in that taxi didn't tell. Listen, I've seen so many things in Jamaica. I've heard so many stories, not what people tell me, what I witnessed for myself. Here's another one. And some years ago, I did a video calling out to the government at the time, who was the Prime Minister, Portia Simpson, to say, listen, you've got to do something about this, where the girl, only 12 years old, was found in a van with an old man having sex in the middle of the town. And after the incident, I was on a bus heading to Maypen and overheard this man on the bus talking about the incident with the man who was caught. Thank goodness a woman in the community saw the van 12 o'clock in the daytime moving, rocking, and the lady was nosy and she peeked through the window and saw the adult man having sex with a 12-year-old girl. And she went and called the police, and he was arrested. Now, while I was on the bus, I heard this man talking about, everybody was talking about the incident. And I heard this one man say, oh my goodness, I feel so bad. I feel so terrible that this thing happened. And I was like, good, finally people are getting repulsed by the fact that people are doing these things to children. And the man says, I feel it, man, because I'm saying, why didn't they take her to the bush? Why did he take her to the town? Why take her to the town? Why didn't he take her to the bush? I was shocked. I'm thinking the man was upset that the child was being abused. No, he was angry that they caught the man. And he was saying, why didn't he take her to the bushes to do that instead of taking her to the middle of the town? So let's not kid ourselves, you know. Many of us women and men too in the society watch older men, taking these little girls to their houses. Moms see their sons coming with underage girl to their homes. Uncles, little predators who see their nieces, little friends come over and they're asking their niece or little girl's phone number. Listen, man, let's keep it real. But a lot of these girls fall prey to these individuals because they're suffering, because parents have children that they cannot afford. You understand me? Boys sometimes find themselves at the clutch of, pedophiles too, because moms can't take care of them either. Yeah, on the bus, the conversation, I was disgusted. Now, here's another one. These are all stories, I was getting my nails done, and the girls were talking about some girl in the community that just got raped, gang raped, gang raped. 5 boys raped this girl. And this person that was doing my nail was also a teacher. And she said that good for the girl, that the girl got what she deserved because she was too hot. Now, this young girl agreed to have sex with one boy, her boyfriend, or some guy she had a crush on. And that boy brought 4 other boys with him, and they raped her. And guess what? The girl was raped. And when I heard the conversation, they were blaming the little girl. I mean, tons. I could write a book on the tons of stories I hear about girls that are abused, boys that are abused, boys that are neglected because guess what? Their moms had them and couldn't afford them and dropped them off to live with family members who claim that I'll help you. And sometimes they have these kids like their little servants, their little maids. They treat them badly and sometimes subject them to all kinds of abuse, physical, mental, sexual. I heard this woman talk about how when she was a young girl, 14 years old, she went to go live with strangers because people sometimes just send their kids to go live with random strangers. And she was working at the house as a domestic servant, really, because they took her in like they wanted to adopt her, but they were using her like their servant. And she said that the husband was like a cop. The husband was coming in her room and molesting her every night because the woman of the house was a nurse and worked at night. And when she told the woman that her husband was doing that to her at that young age, the woman smashed her face into the door and said that she was lying on her husband. I mean, our girls are going through these things. If you were to round up these young girls and in a room and interview them, your heart would be broken. Exactly. Mind over matter. See, we're touching on all the things and you have examples. So you have women, your son is 17 and he brings a 13-year-old girl at home. And you say what? You're not going to say anything. Here's another one. Here's another one. So I'm saying, keep it real. Let's have this conversation. Let's talk this truth. Mine goes to Jamaica for a funeral. At the time, she's probably 14 years old. The house is full with people. You know how it is when people die and families come from all around and they get together. Sometimes you haven't seen your family for a long time. So the family were in the living room all talking about and socializing or whatever. She was lying down in the bedroom and her brother, did you hear me? Her brother came in the room and started holding her down. She started fighting her brother and said, "Are you crazy? Why you holding me down?" And the boy said he wants to have sex with her. 14. She manages to escape, goes to her mom, and the mom brings her back into the room and says, "Why are you trying to disgrace the family?" She says, "He's trying to have sex with me, my brother." And the mom says, "So what? It's a little sex. What a big deal?" And again, this woman also had a lot of children. And though she tried her best to raise them, at the end of the day, It's a dysfunctional home. Many parents get paid for their children. Yeah, if you're saying that men will come to the mom and say to her, I like your daughter. I like your daughter, give her to me. And then mommy will say, okay, no problem. And mommy will come and convince you that, it's going to be better for your life. Go get involved with this big, thirsty man, and your life will be better. The same grand aunt took care of her niece's daughter for 4 years while she studied medicine abroad. The niece never sent any money for the child, but took the child as soon as she qualified. No thanks. And that there are always those extreme cases too, where good people raise kids and for family members, and they never send anything to assist the kid, and at the same time they don't know to say thank you. But again, you also have parents who leave their kids and don't assist the kids. Other parents take care of other people, take care of their kids. They just abandon them, abandonment. Like I said before, a lot of wounds in our community, a lot of stories. I told a lot of stories here, and there's a lot more I could tell. And I don't want to come out here and just lash out on all women. But I'm saying I think it's in women's hands now. I think we're the ones who are going to have to change the pattern, starting with ourselves. We're the ones who are going to have to start saying, we can't do this anymore. I can't keep bringing kids in the world that I can't afford. I can't allow someone to abuse my child. I can't have these children that I can't afford. Can I repeat that? My own younger brother was trying to spy on me when coming out of the bath. And when I confronted him, the mother supported the boy's nastiness. Of course, they're gonna do that. So this society, they justify these things. Okay, before I go, I'm saying, why is there not more uproar? Why do you think? Why do you think you're not hearing more rage or more anger about these girls that are being raped, about these girls are going missing in Jamaica? At the root of it is our justification for the abuse of the girls. Justifying, saying it's just a little sex. And, sometimes when I do these videos, I get a lot of thumbs down, and I just see that as, okay, so you are a pervert, or you're a predator, or you are someone who is guilty of having sex with underage kids, so you're upset. We have to talk up, but we can't just point finger on the other person. We have to call out the women. We have to call out some of the women and say, listen to me. I know you might not be aware of this. This is how you grew up. This is what you become accustomed to. We have to break those ties. We have to break those patterns now. We have to look and say, oh, what have I done? And this trusting people with our girls. Yeah, I've had to work and leave my children with people in the past. But if I had to do it over again, I wouldn't do it like that. Like I said, I had a person who was picking up my children from daycare, keeping them for a short period of time before I come, and having this lady call me at my work and said, I'm running late. Can my husband do it? And saying yes, because he was an older man. I was like, he's an older man. He's Jamaican, and she's going to be there shortly. But anything could have happened to my girls in that short space of time. So I understand that sometimes when you're desperate, you also have parents, and in this country, they do that a lot, leaving children at 7 years old, 8 years old, sorry, by themselves, leaving kids at night to go to work. Because if you don't go to work, you can't buy free food for your kids, you can't pay your rent and whatever. But at the same time, we can continue sacrificing our children. And one of the ways to do this is to say, if I can't afford to pay for a nanny to come to my house, or I can't afford for my kids to be in daycare, that I leave them, unattended, maybe I shouldn't be having children. Yeah, people are turning a blind eye, pretending like they don't know. When we called the meeting at the school to tell the parents that the kids were misbehaving, they thought they were coming because the kids are misbehaving. That's what we sent them letter to say, come and discuss behavioral issues at the school. But when they came, I even surprised the supervisor because I said, okay, let them come. Let's come and talk about the kids and behaving badly. And while they're there condemning the girls, I just popped it in there and said, some of you parents need to shut the hell up because you're not good parents. Some of the reasons why the kids are acting up is because of you subjecting your child to abuse, even at the hand of their own fathers. People went quiet. And I said, also, some of you are putting your kids out there to go prostitute themselves to take care of you and your other children that you can't afford. How is that your daughter or your son's responsibility to support you? And that's why some of these men or boys hate women. Some of these men in Jamaica or anywhere else for that matter, they literally hate their mothers. And that's why they treat women so badly. And if you were to ask them, they pretend like they love their mom, they love their mommy, and they don't want to say anything about. But under that, there's a blatant disregard and hatred for women because of what they experience. Men come to their house, beat them because the mom is trying to get assistance for them when they were growing up, and the men come in and beat them. Some of the women don't even know what some of these men are doing to their boys. You understand? They don't know. These men show a nice face, and when the boys tell the moms don't believe. The moms beat them too. Yes, my dear, I just said, come, we're going to talk about the bad behavior of the kids. I didn't even tell the supervisor that invited me to come and talk with them. I just waited for the moms to open their mouth and start talking about how bad the kids were, and then I start giving them a story. One of the mom was actually in the room where her daughter told me that she would send her to stay with the man, and as soon as she get to the man's house, she would ask for money. So I waited for her to come, and she had the biggest mouth. She was the one talking about how rotten these kids are and how, kids are not the same anymore. Society has changed and the kids are bad and they're children of viper. And I listened to her and I was getting so upset. But I'm like, look at you talking about children of viper when you're sending out your daughter to go catch man and support you and your other children that you can't afford. A lot of these men hate their moms, but they're pretending. And sometimes you see some of them on social media attacking other folks. Some men and some women that you see attacking people who say bad things about their parents, they're doing it because they don't have the courage. They're angry that they don't have the courage to lash out on their parents. And when people do it, it's like you're kind of you're evoking emotions in them that they'd rather suppress. Yeah, they don't want to lose the support. They'd rather lose their children. Are you going to lose your children because of the assistance you can get from some man who does not even like you? Do you understand me? So, listen to the kids. If you see some kids acting out or some girls behaving badly, acting real vulgar, and you're turned off by it, before you judge them, I suggest you start talking to them and asking them a few questions. Because one girl that I took under my wing, when I met her, she had 2 kids. I had my last child at the time when she had her 2 kids. And my daughter is 11 years old, and now she has 9 children. And when I talk to her and offer her my friendship, when she tells me stories and things that she's gone through with her own mother right here in Canada, it's really heartbreaking. So we're failing ourselves as women and we're failing our girls, if you ask me. Yeah. They tell you to forgive. Sometimes you have to forgive, but not in the way they're asking you to forgive. Forgiveness in the sense that if you don't forgive, you just become bitter and just angry, and you're not going to be able to live your own life. When you get involved with other people, you can't open up yourself to true love because the wound is so deep. So sometimes you have to let go. Recently, I had someone that I was very angry with, very hurt about something that this person did. And I eventually had to make the decision to let it go. During the time when I was doing my fast, my 30-day, fast, I called this person and spoke to her. And, what happened wasn't so deep where I couldn't let it go. And it was just destroying me and blocking my blessings. So I called her and we had a conversation, and I'm glad I let it go. Sometimes you have to let it go. Doesn't mean that you're going to forget. It's for your own soul. It's for your own soul, but it doesn't mean that you're going to get so chummy. Sometimes people are so toxic that you've got to cut them off. You have to let them go. Let them go out of your life so you can heal yourself. And sometimes that's parents too. Sometimes that's family members too. Sometimes it's siblings. Because some people, when they come, they bring pure chaos to your life. Um, this thing happens everywhere, but I think in a lot of single parent households, a lot of this is occurring in, and women with multiple baby daddies. Here's another thing that happens too. When you have 5 kids and you got 5 different fathers, a lot of times these kids don't get along with each other. They have different fathers, and it's like, I don't know, it's like everybody bring a different energy. And these kids are not bonding with each other because their father is not around, or maybe sometimes one person that sticks around might not live with them but takes care of them. It causes jealousy sometimes in the other kids. I don't speak to my mom and don't intend to ever talk to her again. It has been 7 years since I've spoken to her on her side. My life has been so much better and my health has improved. I hear you. Now, I didn't grow up with my mom, and I reached out to her. It's like every 10 years I would reach out to her. And the last time I reached out to her, it was horrible. I would never speak to her again. I don't, I'm saying this publicly for the first time. I wouldn't say never, but I would never reach out to her again because some of the stuff she said, and keep in mind, she doesn't know me. She doesn't really know me, but this lady is toxic. She is toxic. She's had her kids. She's abandoned all her kids. And now she have this sense of entitlement that every time you reach out to her, all she see you as is money. She doesn't want you. She doesn't want me as a daughter. She doesn't even want a friendship. She just wants someone to take care of her. She demands you to take care of her. And if you're saying, hey, hold up a minute here, what about creating a bond? She doesn't really want that. They hook up with guys, get pregnant without even knowing their true character. So they have 5 babies for different daddies. And truthfully speaking, sometimes they don't even know who they're pregnant for. You're seeing stories with some women, whose kids, you grew up thinking this person is your father, and suddenly you're going to go overseas. The opportunity is opening for you. And when your father tried to sponsor you, he finds out that he's not the daddy, and the kid stays there, and the opportunities that that was coming for this child is gone. I mean, so much things that's happening, in our community. And again, I know Black women have it very hard. I know a lot of us work very hard and we try our best, and sometimes we have no luck with men. And but in spite of all of that, we have to stop feeling sorry for ourselves and saying to myself, okay, I don't seem to be very lucky with men. I get involved with all these men. I've had all these kids and it's not worked out. So now I have to do what I have to do to protect my children, the ones that I have, and to pass on the message to them, to say, please don't make the mistakes that I made. Don't keep having kids that you can't afford. It's not cute. So having big family that you can't take care of, and a lot of resentment and a lot of animosity with these kids, because when they have all these different daddies, sometimes they don't feel connected. They don't feel like they're family members because all these different dads and whatever. It's just not cute. We have to break the silence. We have to break the silence by me talking out. And you watch this video and you'll see a lot of thumbs down come under this video because people don't like it. People, you see, even though I'm always supporting Black folks, you see, sometimes I talk about issues that we face in the world against other folks who don't like Black people. But at the same time, I can't just dwell on that. I have to zone in and look at the things that is not working, things that we're doing wrong, and acknowledge it. Even as a mom, if I do something, if I get upset with my child and I, yell and say something that is not very nice, I am adult enough and woman enough to go to the kid and say, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that I was upset. You know what I mean? Or I have done things in the past. I've made choices in the past that didn't work out to my benefit. I have to come and say, I shouldn't have done that. I'm not going to do that again. If you can't take your own account of your own behavior and your own action, how are you going to manage somebody else's business? And so I'm saying some of what's going on in Jamaica right now with our kids going missing, with our kids behaving badly, with teenage pregnancy, with child molestation, with the abuse of all kind, starts at home. Some of the problems start at home. And I think the women in the society need to come together and start to say, you know what, let's teach our kids to do better. And no, don't be a hypocrite when you have done the same thing. And because nobody know your secret, you're judging the other person down the road. If you have gone down that road, you can also minister to the female, minister to the young lady or to the other woman, not judge her, but go to her and say, look here, I've done this and it hasn't worked out for me. Think about your children, you know, and anyone that I assist that has 10 kids and is asking for assistance, I'm going to say, don't have any more. If you're offended, you're offended. I just don't care. Don't have any more kids that you can't afford. It's not anybody else's responsibility to take care of your kids, but because people have a good heart, people look at the children and they have compassion, they will help. But it's not somebody else's responsibility, it's yours. Yeah, exactly. Making mistakes is not the worst thing, but the lack of remorse and acknowledging when you do something wrong, that is the problem as far as I'm concerned. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Hopefully this didn't go to left field because I started out talking about kids in Jamaica that, you know, grew up poor and how they got treated by family members or whatever. And then we're also dealing with mothers and women who, you know, need to do more to protect the girls and need to do more to change their own actions and need to use their story to teach their kids to say, you know what, this was not the best. And sometimes need to apologize to these kids to say, you know what, I brought you in the world and I was not equipped to take care of your needs the way I should be. And now I want you to grow up and I want you to do better. And you push these kids, encourage them, and stop forcing them to go be with men that they're not interested in or force them to be with men because you can't take care of them. It's not a child's responsibility to take care of you, it's your responsibility to take care of them. Stay blessed, everybody. Janet, mind over matter. Dave, Apple, hope I'm not leaving anyone. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have any topics or you want to discuss, Sweet 69, thank you. Kimmy Kim, thank you for joining me. Shar, any topic, whenever you want me to come live and us discuss Indigenous Earthling, let me know. Give me your topic suggestions and we'll talk about it. Bringing awareness. Hopefully someone finds this, some child finds this. Dave, I think I mentioned the name, For Black Africa. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me and for having this discussion. And you can continue talking under this video as someone will find it that needs it. Andrew Walker, Gloria, thank you for joining me. Clive, thank you for joining. Stay blessed, everybody.